Earlier, I spoke with Alejandra Cazas Lozada, an activist and coordinator in Bolivia for the Unitary Federation of Transport Workers in Latin America and the Caribbean, FUTAC. From La Paz, she spoke about the significance of this election for Bolivia and the wider region.
The elections in Bolivia are actually very significant this year. We've seen protests happening all over the continent, with Argentina, Ecuador, Brazil, Peru. And really, the elections in Bolivia this year are going to position Bolivia either on the continued process of change, which is more left-leaning and respectful of the sovereignty of every nation, or it will either go to the opposition, where they have already condemned Evo Morales' support for Maduro and for Cuba and other countries alike. This is a tougher election because of it is his fourth term. Many people have lost maybe some faith in the process of change in the mass. And of course, because of the referendum, where there was a lie about Morales having a child with a lady called Zapata. Of course, this isn't true, but this damaged his image, and he lost the referendum to be able to run for re-election. In this sense, Bolivia right now has to choose whether they want to maintain the policies of sovereignty and respecting other countries' sovereignty, the redistribution of wealth and social investment, Latin American integration, and economic and political stability. It's impossible to deny the changes from 2005 to today. Like I said, the majority of the people fall into the middle class today, whereas before we were almost in 60% of poverty, and extreme poverty was 37%, I believe. Today, extreme poverty has fallen to within 15 to 18%, and poverty to 30%. So people have a stable job, have a stable income. Inflation is low, meaning that the price of goods haven't increased as fast as they have in other places. It's not just on the economic side that the country has changed so much. Also on the social aspects, there's an inclusion of the working class, of the youth, of the indigenous movement into everyday life. You see them now on TV. You see them managing to get a university degree. There was the first thesis, defended thesis in Aymara at the University of El Alto. And in general, things have transformed in this country. There was the latest news is that there's a Bolivian electric car that is now being made here. That was unthinkable in 2005. There wasn't the economic stability to open your own business, be it a restaurant or a coffee shop. So things have really transformed in Bolivia, and there is no one that can deny it. And that is the biggest campaign argument of the mass party and of the government, is the economic growth and the stability.
I also asked Alejandra about the role of women in the MAS party and how youth will be voting during this election.
Yes, women's movement is one of the strongest leadership roles in the MAS. The most known one is Bartolina Sisa, Confederation of Campesina, Indigenous, and Native Women. Also, the MAS is the only party that has respected the norms of gender equity in the candidates for their deputies and senators. That's by law here. And the other parties have not managed to do this. There are other organizations that are more liberal, middle-class organizations of women. They tend to support either the opposition. Some of them have joined the MAS as well. The youth here is very diverse, and they follow pretty much the steps of their economic class. And I actually believe that it was the mass party who firstly got the youth together under them and organized them and included them in the political system. And I think because of this, um, the right wing started organizing the youth under them. So you can see there are a lot of young leaders within the mass. The president of the Senate is one of them. She's only 30 years old, I believe. There are other upcoming young political leaders also in the mass. So I believe that the youth could, it's not really on under one side only. The youth up to the age of about 30 years old makes up about more or less 50% of the population. So it is a very young country. But I believe that the majority will be voting under mass, since the majority of the population is working class. Nowadays, because of the change, they are middle class now. Yes.